Dr. Marwan Abouljoud's passion lies in saving people's lives and pushing the boundaries of medicine. Dr. Abouljoud is well known as an internationally recognized pioneer in transplant surgery. What is less known about Dr. Abouljoud are the struggles and obstacles he overcame in the Middle East before coming to the United States. Born in Pamdoun, Lebanon in 1960, one of 7 children, Dr. Abouljoud grew up against a backdrop of war, a perspective that has shaped his life.
We saw experiences in life that other people do not see. It was not skateboarding, it was not skiing, it was not vacationing. It was about life, humanity, and death, and citizenship, and people working with each other and helping each other.
He began his lifelong journey toward a career in medicine at a young age when he volunteered to care for the wounded during Lebanon's civil war. The young Marwan learned early that if he wanted to change his life, it would be through education. After years of hard work, he got the chance of a lifetime when he moved to the United States, but even that was not easy.
I came with $500 and no jobs, and worked for free for a year, borrowed money to work, and had a car that didn't go uphill. I leaked oil too much that for me not to be able to drive it. I just parked it and let it be. And there was an oil slick underneath the car the whole time.
After completing his undergraduate and medical degrees from the American University of Beirut, Dr. Abouljoud completed his surgical residency at the University of Michigan and Henry Ford Hospital. He received further training at UCLA, the University of Alabama, and Baylor University in Texas.
I realized that my passion was in saving life. And it rekindled my roots and my experiences with life in Lebanon. The life and death and humanity. And then I realized that actually you cannot go through life without making a difference. You have to make a difference.
Dr. Abouljoud has gone on to lead transplant surgery at Henry Ford to national and international recognition and pioneer many new procedures. Among other honors, he has received the Excellence in Medical Services and Advocacy Award, the Distinguished Physician of the Year Award, and the Arab American Professional of the Year. Every day, he continues to contribute to the field of medicine.
I expected little. I hoped for a lot more, and I got way more than I expected. And it was not easy, it was very hard, but there were rewards along the way.
From a childhood of trauma and challenge, Dr. Abouljoud has forged a lifetime of healing. He has changed his story from one of war and death to one of hope and love.
You know, no one knows Dr. Marwan's story better than his wife, Mary, and herself a first-generation Arab American. Mary grew up in Westland, Michigan, and graduated from Livonia Public Schools. You know, in 1990, a mutual friend insisted that she meet a promising young doctor who had come from Lebanon for medical training. Well, let's say the rest, as they say, is history. Here to tell us more about her husband is Mary Abouljoud. Mary?
Good evening. It is a privilege to introduce my husband as Arab American of the Year. It is humbling to see the number of guests in the audience, and especially touching to have members of our immediate family here with us this evening. As many of you know, the name Abul means father of, and Joud is generosity, father of generosity. And as they say, that's quite a nom de sir. But let me introduce you to the young man that had to grow into such an important name. Marwan was born in Lebanon as one of 7 boys. His father, a career military man, rose to the rank of general and instilled in his son the virtues of dedication, integrity, humanity, modesty, respect, perseverance, and generosity. Like most military families, the Abouljouds moved frequently, and in the 1960s, while on assignment in Egypt, Marwan at a very young age was introduced to the sights and sounds of war. It left a lasting impression. Unfortunately, for a young Marwan, these sounds would be replayed in different countries at various stages of his life, These sounds would become the opus of his life in the Middle East. In 1975, civil war erupted in Lebanon, and like many refugees, the Abouljouds found themselves in Syria. For the next year and a half, they would be displaced and divided amongst various homes of relatives. At an age when most teenagers were concerned with collecting records and making plans with friends for the weekend, Marwan was volunteering on ambulance runs, helping distribute food, setting up tents in refugee camps. In a time of senseless destruction, Marwan discovered that he loves to care for people, that gratification comes from doing good. While most people were thinking about survival, Marwan was thinking about how to help others survive. Eventually, the Abouljouds were able to return to Lebanon. Marwan was able to resume his education. He approached school with the same tenacity that he approached the war. And in 1979, Marwan graduated from the International College, ranked first in his class, was the recipient of the prestigious Penrose Award. Marwan had seen mankind at its worst, and it brought out the best in him. What better way to help people than medicine? His next stop would be the American University of Beirut Medical School. But then in 1982, Israel invaded Beirut. And once again, Marwan found himself in a war zone. This time, he would head a volunteer group of medical students in the ER. They would collect fragmented body parts, they would care for the injured, and they would sleep on stretchers covered with sheets to protect themselves from flies. Once among the chaos, Marwan awoke to find himself being wheeled out to be placed among the dead. The events of those 2 weeks changed Marwan's perception of life. He learned to survive not only physically but mentally. The sounds of war beating on him once again had to be muted, so the essence of life and humanity would not be lost. Marwan had seen humankind at his worst. Rather than drown in a wave of pessimism, he found a wave of optimism that carries him through all aspects of life. In 1985, he left his family and his beloved country. He came here with little money, without a job prospect, but with hope, hopes of creating a new chapter in his life. He would never look back on his decision. Eventually, Marwan found a new home here in Detroit at Henry Ford Hospital. Through hard work and perseverance, he earned a residency in general surgery. He excelled. Although it would have benefited Henry Ford and the community for Marwan to start a general surgery practice, he was encouraged to follow his dream and become a transplant surgeon. After completing his training at the University of Alabama and Baylor University with some of the best surgeons in his field, he had many job offers. But it was clear he wanted to come back to Detroit to give back to the community that had given him so much. So in 1994, we found ourselves here again. 2 years later, his hard work and determination paid off. Marwan became chief of abdominal transplant surgery at Henry Ford. By 1998, he was awarded the Benson IV Endowed Chair in Transplant Surgery. After this, a series of firsts. The first split liver transplant in Michigan, the first adult-to-adult living donor liver transplant in Michigan, the creation of the Henry Ford Transplant Institute, chair of the Board of Governors of the Henry Ford Medical Group, just to name a few. Despite these great accomplishments, Marwan would tell you that they pale in comparison to being the father of our 3 boys, Munir, Malik, and Bashar. Our family is proud of the selfless work that Marwan does to improve the quality of life for his patients, but more importantly, the acts of humanity that sheds favorable attention to the medical profession, our Arab community, and our heritage. Special thanks to the committed individuals of Access for recognizing my husband as the 2012 honoree and for allowing me to share some of Marwan's stories of struggle and success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for the warm and heartful introduction. I couldn't have said it any better. Now everybody knows my secret weapon. It is very humbling to be here in front of you all, and it's more humbling even to be recognized for something that you do and you think it's a daily way of life. It's more humbling even, and to me it's more awkward when I know that there are so many well-deserving people who do similar kind of work, making a difference in people's lives on a daily basis. Perhaps my relief is that I will be accepting this award also on behalf of so many professionals, who some of you are here, who do terrific work day in and day out. I also want to congratulate Diane Rehm. It's such a pleasure to be next to you as an awardee. I'm a big fan of yours. You definitely create a soulful program and open dialogue like no other of national scale, and I'm very proud to be with you. I got to know Access somewhere around 18, 19 years ago when it was a small operation and their dreams and vision were beyond compare. You could see the passion in people's eyes, and it was drawing, it was magnetic. And you have seen today that Access innovates, Access connects, Access makes a difference in communities, Access makes a better society. And this is the kind of work that we all need in every community. And I congratulate Access for the terrific work. And I thank Access for the terrific award. And I'm truly appreciative and humbled by this. And my narrative, as you've seen, is really quite common, I think, among many of us who come from the Middle East. It was a very unique life. At age 13, you grow up to be a man. It's quite simple. You do not debate. You just move on. You make a difference in other people's lives. And I think that when something happens in front of you, where you almost lose your life and you don't, you realize that there is something that you've acquired, that embrace, that enlightenment, and all of a sudden it becomes about others. And that's a transformation that nobody can live unless you're that close to losing your life, the life of those you love, or even the lives of people that you've seen minutes before and they are shredded. And that is transformative. And I think that, as Mary said, to me, it was not a burnout experience. It was not a bitter experience. It was just a glimpse inside the humanity that we all deal with day in, day out. And when you appreciate it this way, I think you appreciate in people what's best in them, and also you appreciate what is really good in life. It gives you a different perspective. Moldy bread is bread, and a badly done hamburger is still a hamburger. And you'll just put it in real perspective. Nothing of what I've done or could have accomplished is possible without many, many other people. And I have to say that I've been so welcomed by the American people in the United States when I first came here. With very little money, a heavy accent, got better with time. But I'm French educated, so it was a little bit difficult to just translate. But there was a lot of warmth in the American people. The embrace, the warm embrace with the Arab American community and the people in Michigan when I came here. And spending 25 years at Henry Ford in the years that I spent, this is almost half my living years at Henry Ford in Detroit between training and practice. It's almost like qualifies you to be made in Detroit. It sounds pretty good, actually. And beyond that, though, none of this is possible without the great staff and partners, and especially my family. My wife, Mary, and my three boys, Munir, Malik, and Bashar. Please stand up, Munir, Malik, Bashar. You know, we always say, you know, my kids, I'm proud of them, and my kids, and my this, and my kids are the smartest. But I can tell you, Mary is a mother, is a partner, is a wife. She's a surrogate father, and she even tells me sometimes she could use a wife. And the boys and Mary did not really commit to my lifestyle, to what I do. They got into it because of my choices. And I know they've sacrificed a lot, and there is no way I can pay them back except by loving them every day and providing for them as much that I can every day. Transplant is very unique. And you cannot do this part-time. You cannot do this on the edge. You either are excellent or you're not in it. When I have personal experiences in the middle of the night, when other people are sleeping, cuddling in the winter under that comforter, And at 2 in the morning, I'm implanting a liver in a high school teacher, math teacher, who can't add numbers anymore because of her liver disease. Her heart stops at 4 in the morning. And there I am, feeling defeat. And literally, her heart is in my hands, limp, as I try to bring it back. And then a week later, she goes home. And I realize what I've done. But at the same time, it humbles you that you just walk around and you stand in line for just about everything else, and you come home, deal with children's homework, and they ask you, how was your day? And I said, it was actually great. It was a great day. But when you miss their games, when you miss their concerts, it's not always that they're going to understand at age 6 and 7 and 10 and 12. And you hope that at some point they will understand. And I have to also admire the institution that I work in. Just in the past year, we had this wonderful 21-year-old girl from Western Michigan, college girl, who comes in the hospital and suddenly she's in coma. And unless you are there, you just can't appreciate this. It always brings back these images of death and life, and you're there. And this young girl had maybe 12 hours to go. We bring in 4 teams together on a Sunday. Everybody's doing their wonderful barbecue on Memorial Day weekend. And then we transfer a piece of liver from her brother, who's also a college student, into her. And of course, she's not aware, she's in coma. He leaves 7 days later, she leaves home 10 days later. And they write me a letter to me and my family, thanking me for our humanity, our kindness and compassion, and courage to save their life. And so then you go home, and it's another day, and you go to work, and it's another day. And you turn on, and you go forward. And you realize that you make a difference in people's lives, one at a time. But it's life lived and experiences resurrected, and there's a sense of value that is not replaceable. There are many people who share my narrative. Narrative of immigration, narrative of war, narrative of trauma, displacement, less money, more money. It's all tangible things that come and go. What really puts us all together who share this narrative is our history, our roots. I've uprooted myself. I'm very proud of my roots. You can only go as high as your deep roots go. But I also rooted myself in a wonderful soil in the best country on earth, the United States of America. And for those people who share this narrative with me, I would say rejoice, be proud of where you've come from, who you are, and what you've become. But as we rejoice and benefit from the life of privilege of being in other people's life, this is the biggest privilege you can ever have. We all have one common thread that we have to share, and that's our humanity. Our humanity. Because we've seen it when it's there at its best. We've seen it when it's not there. And we live it every day because we know what it's like. We have the obligation of carrying that humanity forward, of seeing what is the best in other people, being servant to other people, and see the privilege of servantship, and also see what is right in this world. So to Access, friends and colleagues, my Henry Ford extended family, and my personal family, thank you so much for the privilege, and I love you all.
Now we'll just leave him with Mary for a picture. No, wait. خليه ياخد صورة هو ماري ولا معاه؟ بليها.
على السريع. يلا.
Ladies and gentlemen, for our final Arab American of the Year award, please turn to our video screens.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Diane Rehm. A little more than a year ago.
Diane Rehm loves to talk, so it's only natural that she has become one of the most prominent, engaging, and popular radio hosts in the country. Perhaps her love of the talk show format came from the Arabic traditions of drinking tea and talking late into the nights. Diane was born to Arab immigrants who arrived in the United States in the early 20th century. Her Lebanese father worked as a grocer, and her mother, who emigrated from Egypt, was a homemaker. Diane and her sister were raised in a close-knit Syrian Christian community. As women, they were expected to do little more than become secretaries and prepare themselves to marry into the community.
But I think there was some kind of drive in me that said, there is something more out there, and I want that something.
In 1959, Diane married a local attorney, John Rehm. In 1973, she became a volunteer producer of WAMU 88.5 in Washington, D.C. She was hired as an assistant producer and later became the host and producer of 2 health-oriented programs.
I can remember how excited I was to get up each morning and go through the newspapers and start thinking, what ideas can I offer? What's new? What's in the news?
In 1979, she began hosting WAMU's local morning talk show, Kaleidoscope, which was renamed the Diane Rehm Show in 1984. Over the next 3 decades, the show grew from a local call-in program to one of NPR's most popular programs. Today, more than 2.4 million listeners across the country tune in to the Diane Rehm Show each week. Diane's guests have included some of the nation's most prominent newsmakers, journalists, and authors, including then-Senator Barack Obama and former Presidents Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter. Diane was named Washingtonian of the Year, one of Washington's 100 most powerful women, and one of the 150 most influential people in Washington by Washingtonian magazine. All of this in spite of a personal challenge that threatened to end her career. In 1998, Diane developed spasmodic dysphonia, a neurological voice disorder that causes strained, difficult speech. In the persevering spirit that has guided and shaped her, Diane sought treatment, returned to the show, and called attention to the condition. Today, both on the air and off, she continues her journey of discovery and courage.
Thanks for listening, all. I'm Diane Rehm.
You know, after earning his PhD in philosophy from the University of Chicago, Dr. David Rehm has spent most of his academic career at Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland, where today he serves as provost. His academic expertise is ancient Greek philosophy, but tonight he's here to introduce and talk about his mom. All right, let's introduce and let's get him up here right now, Dr. David Rehm.
Good evening to all of you. My name is David Rehm, and I am the son of Diane Rehm, whom you are honoring tonight, and I'm delighted to be here. And Maha, I'm going to go off script for just a moment. I was so impressed by Dr. Abouljoud and all that you've done, and listening to your accomplishments and your dedication. It's a tough act to follow. It really is. But then I thought about access and everything that I've learned in the last 30 hours. I arrived at 7:30 yesterday morning. And I realized that access is totally dedicated to the whole of the human being, mind and body, always in the context of great spirit. So if we think about our 2 awardees tonight, we can think yet again about access's dedication to a holistic approach to human beings in all our endeavors. I congratulate you. In the past few minutes, all of you have seen a video of my mother. You've had the opportunity to read the biography of her in your program, and if you haven't, for afterwards, it's on page 9. What I'd like to do now is to say a few things you probably don't know. Over the past 10 years or so, my mother and I have baked baklava, as I grew up, baklava, together during the Christmas season. We each bake about 1 pound, and I get to take my pound home to Gettysburg. Before I arrive, Mom has done much of what I call the mise en place for any of you who are cooks. Chopping the walnuts, combining them just right with sugar, buying the phyllo, separating the butter, and preparing the syrup that will be ladled onto the made baklava. So when I arrive, typically around 1 or 2 in the afternoon after her show, we are ready to do some serious baking. We work for a couple of hours, we chat, we laugh. We're in the kitchen. I describe this yearly ritual because it says much about my mother that you may or may not know. Let's start with the fact that she's a terrific cook. She was always making new dishes or trying new recipes when my sister and I were growing up. And she passed on that love of cooking to me. There's what I'll call an old world care and attention that both she and my father have always taken with food. Every meal is sacred. Every meal is to be cherished. But there's more to this ritual than just the creation of what I believe to be the best baklava I've ever tasted. There's also the social and personal side to our time together. We genuinely have a great time chatting with one another, talking about family, work, interests, aspirations, and areas of concern. My mom is not just a great interviewer or talk show conversationalist. She loves people, conversation, and ideas. And she lives out this love every day, not just on the air, but in her interactions with coworkers, friends, family, and acquaintances. The last thing I'll say about our annual rite is that over time, it has shown the perfectionism and the aspirations to excellence that lie in both of us. We'll remember from one year to the next which phyllo dough was better and which was less good. She will make small changes to help improve the quality of the product. That's something that I do as a cook, and I know I learned it from her. But this description, too, is appropriate in terms of how she and I have interacted. There have been times over the years when our interaction was less strong, but she and I have always been willing to strive for something better, something stronger. I stand here as the product of an ongoing dialogue with my mother. Our relationship is something that makes me proud, and it is with that tremendous sense of pride that I now introduce to you my mother, Diane Rehm.
I wish I could see all of you, but I cannot. What I love doing is hearing my son. What mother would not be proud to hear the story of what that baklava has meant to him and to me? It was something my mother baked every year. She died when I was 19. My father died shortly thereafter. I wish they could be here tonight. Coming here to Detroit, seeing all of you, many last night, many more in the museum today. Seeing your faces this evening in each and every one of you, I see a part of my family. I shall ever be grateful that I was fortunate enough to be born into an Arab family. The richness exists not only in the food, as my dear son loves to talk about, but in the compassion that exists in this community. I see it every day as I converse with my elderly cousin, who is now 95 years old. I talk with her. She tells me what's going on with her body. And she says, but I'm fine. I'm really fine. And I know that, as it is with all of us, she wants to look on the bright side. As Marwan has said, it's as though we move because we must. We strive because we must. And I know that as a little girl, living as I did in two separate worlds, the world of my Arab family, where my mother and father spoke Arabic to me and I spoke English to them, living in a neighborhood of Jews, of Italians, of Greeks, of every ethnic background. It was a wonderful mix. Now we find ourselves too often divided by those very beginnings which should make us strong. And what Access is doing is to help each one of us realize how strong we are, not only as individuals, but how much stronger we are becoming as an Arab community in this world. Each and every day, I have the privilege of speaking with people from all different walks of life, from government, from medicine, from education, from science, from theater, from the arts of all kinds. And though I never had the opportunity to attend college, I feel as though I've had a one-on-one teaching education every single day of the 34 years I've been doing the program. I feel as though I am one of the best educated people I know. What I hope is that the inspiration that you and I have received tonight from Marwan's story, from all the stories you've heard here, they are inspiring. They do help us to realize that our world is not just the one we live in individually, but that we share with so many people in this world, and that there is so much that we can do individually and as a group to make this a better world. I thank you all for this great honor that I am receiving tonight, and I am and always will be Bint Arabi.
This way, I think he wants to.
On this side.
Yeah.
We'll get there, we'll get there.
I love your shoes, Diane. You want to take a photo, just a two of you? Would you like just David and...
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.